Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to Beth's Naughty Reads. I'm Beth Lamontagne, and today we're going to get a little naughty talking about Kate Golden's A Dawn of Onyx. Before I jump into the book, though, I'll ask you guys to please take a moment to go find me on all the socials. You can find me under Beth's Naughty Reads. Also, take a moment to please thumb up this episode, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel so you're notified of when new releases happen. As I talked about, we're going to be looking at Kate Golden's The Dawn of Onyx. This is a picture of Kate I pulled from her social media, so that's what I'm using today. Kate describes herself, Kate is a best-selling author. She works in the film industry helping develop movies and scripts, so it makes sense that she's an author and writes very well. She says she's an avid reader, puzzle addict, and game night enthusiast. This is the first time I've read one of her books, and I really liked her writing style and storytelling, so I have a feeling I'll be reading many more of them. Like I said, we're going to get into The Dawn of Onyx. This is book one of the completed trilogy, the Sacred Stone series. It kept coming up on my Instagram and TikTok, so I decided to take a look at what people were posting about it, and the fan art was fucking beautiful, so that intrigued me. The glimpses into the book intrigued me, so I figured, what the hell. Excited because it was a completed trilogy and I didn't have to wait for the next book, which can always be a little frustrating. It is definitely a slow burn romantasy, and it's got elements of magic and enemies to lovers. The main female character is Arwen Valendale. She's a healer from the Kingdom of Amber. She lives a quiet life taking care of her family with few to no friends. She knows she's a very powerful healer, but she sees herself as ordinary and doesn't have a lot to offer anyone. She has purposely kept the extent of her power or magic a secret her whole life. She's ever the optimist, and some would say almost to a fault. Uh, her mother has been sick since she was old enough to talk, and regardless of her powers, she is not able to make her mother better. So she really focuses on taking care of her. The main male character is Kane Ravenwood, aka King Ravenwood. He is the king of the Onyx Kingdom, known across the realm as ruthless and calculating. He's basically a walking contradiction of himself. When he wears the crown, he's got one persona, and when the crown is off, he's a different persona, and they're often warring with each other. So when we start the story, we have learned that all the males in her kingdom have been conscripted to fight for the king of Valendale. Her brother and his best friend left 18 months ago, and they have not heard anything from them. So they are all beginning to fear the worst and that they may be gone. But she fights this with she fights this notion with everything she's got. And lo and behold, who stumbles in later that afternoon? But her brother, battered and bloody. We find, escaped a battle when the rest of his battalion had been slaughtered. And upon fleeing, he found a bag of onyx coins and took it, thinking he could use the coins to get his family away from the war and into a better life. Arwen immediately understands that this act has put a target on his back, so they need to flee quickly. They get as much together as they can, and they flee to the docks. However, upon arrival at the docks, her little sister realizes that she has left her mother's tonic back at the house when they were in a rush to leave. The mother, like I said, she's sick. She can't really function without this medicine, so Arwen knows she must go back. Her brother's too bruised, her sister's too young, and her mom's too sick. She's very excited because the whole way back, she has not seen any soldiers, so she thinks this is good. However, when she gets back to the house, she finds it filled with 11 Onyx soldiers. Enter Lieutenant Burt. He's a horrible sort of man, but don't worry. As like every evil person, he gets his comeuppance later in the book. She does notice when she's looking around her house that there's a severely injured, soldier bleeding out on our floor near death. She, of course, denies that she knows the soldier they're looking for, so Lieutenant Burt deems her useless and orders her killed. And in a panic, Arwen tells the group she can heal the soldier in exchange for her life. Once healed, Bert decides she's useful and will take her with them to continue the search for the thief. In her panic to save her family, she barters with Bart and says, "Hey, if you take me, will you leave my family alone? I'll go work for the king in his kingdom." And he agrees. Upon arrival, she's immediately thrown into a dungeon where she meets Kane, another prisoner. Kane shows her kindness and distracts her from her panic as she begins to realize where she is. And then everywhere Arwen goes, she begins to run into Kane. It's like all roads lead to Kane for some odd reason that she doesn't understand. After a few more interactions, she works up the nerve to ask Kane to help her escape. And when he denies her, she finds another way because she is cunning and set on getting out. She does make a run for it. However, not that far out of her cell, she gets caught by Lieutenant Burt, and he decides it's a good time to teach her a lesson and begins pulling her to his tent. They are stopped by the king, and it's in this horrifying moment that Arwen learns Kane's true identity. He's King Ravenwood. Arwen also, as the story goes on, begins to learn everything is not as it seems. People that she's known her whole life are not who she thinks they are, and that good guy or the bad guy might actually be the good guy. So a couple excerpts. This is when Arwen has been thrown into the dungeon and interacting with Kane for the first time. She says, he watched me as my eyes fluttered closed, calmed by the warmth and heavy weight of his cloak. Even then, I could feel his eyes on me, and my skin itched under his gaze. For some bizarre reason, I couldn't stand the silence. Well, I'm not crying anymore. I'll try to keep it down. But he didn't crawl back to his corner to sleep. Rather, he unfolded one leg out in front of him and brushed a large hand through his hair, sweeping it out of his face. Trying to get rid of me? Yes, I admitted. She uses me for my fur and then kicks me to the curb. Women. I roll my eyes, but I know better than to be charmed. Obscene beauty or not, this man was locked up in an Onyx King stronghold dungeon. I just had to balance on the razor's edge between angering him and letting down my guard. Just practicing some self-preservation. You could be dangerous. True, he mused. I could be. But for what it's worth, I wouldn't care if you were dangerous. I raised a skeptical brow and wrapped the fur around me tighter. What's that supposed to mean? He gave me a crooked again and shrugged. You're too alluring. I'd have to take my chances, and if you killed me, he leaned in a bit, well, it would be a good death. So you already kind of see the interaction he is as just Kane with her. This next excerpt I have is when Arwen has escaped her cell and she gets caught by the lieutenant. He is pulling her to his tent, and she is struggling with all that she has to keep from going in there when all of a sudden she hears, "What the fuck is going on here?" growled a low voice behind us, cold as death and just as violent. Bert spun us to face the man, but I already knew who would be standing there. I knew his voice like my own by now. No, the words fell from my mouth. Bert would surely kill him. The prisoner's familiar, towering frame, blazing silver eyes, and a more mercenary expression than I had ever seen stared back at us. Fury shared in his gaze, fury and the promise of death. But he didn't move to draw a sword or rush the lieutenant. Instead, for no reason at all, Bert released me, and I fell unceremoniously to the ground. Confusion rang through my chest alongside my relief, my heartbeat still pounding with residual adrenaline. Bert stumbled and arched a bow before the stranger. My hammering heart stopped cold. Why would... My king, Bert sputtered, face aimed at the dirt beneath him. My vision tunneled until all I could see was the prisoner standing before me. The weight of realization like a boulder to my chest, crushing and horrifying. No air. I had no air. I wasn't breathing. So just a little bit of insight of her reaction when she finds out he is not who he seems to be. So I'm going to go through a few reviews here. The first one is from Alex Murphy. She gave it 5 stars, saying it was fun and amazing read. She says, "Wow, I had read a small snippet of Book Talk of all places, and it got me interested in this so quickly. I bought the whole series before I even started book 1, and now that I have finished it, I am so happy I got them all because I don't have to wait to read the next one. I can jump right in, like I did this one. This was thrilling, the plot, the world building, the characters." The next one I have is from Maddie, who is in Australia. She said, "Incredible, 5-star rating. The book was incredible. Cannot honestly recommend this enough. I did not put this book down and read it start to finish in one sitting. The characters, the storyline, the suspense, there's too much to love about this book, and I'm itching for book 2. The next is from Winger. Oh, it's okay. Winger Yasabao, loved every single moment of it. 5-star review. Laughed my way through all the hilarious banter, gasped at each revelation and plot twist, and enjoyed every single word of it. The world building, the characters, the magic, the tension. Everything was exactly what I loved in a book, and I can't wait to read the next series." So I kind of felt like they did. I was really excited about this book. I gave it 3 jalapenos. It's definitely a slow burn, but you can feel the angst and the sexual tension from the very beginning of the book, which made it almost a beautiful slow burn. Like I just knew that once they finally got together, it was going to be freaking amazing. And so that really helped me through that slow burn portion. I gave it 5 stars. It's amazing. Fantasy world. Perfect amount of description because we know sometimes the authors can get lost in their description and it kind of loses us at some points. Started off exciting and pulled me in. I couldn't put it down. Literally, I was reading till 3:30 in the morning. The only reason I stopped is because my husband came out and was like, "Babe, it's 3:30 in the morning and we have roofers coming tomorrow." Oops. Um, I did wake up the very next morning and started reading immediately and finished the book like 2 hours later. So it is a very easy, quick read. I would highly recommend checking out A Dawn of Onyx. Also, if you guys would take a moment to find Kate's social media accounts, you can find her on Instagram as at Kate Golden Author, on TikTok. Look in the comments. Okay. Give her a follow, and that way you can also check out and see what else she's got out there that's coming up. Also, if you're looking for something to do, check out the Bars Open with Beth and Greg. It's a show I do with the hubs, and we get obnoxious and silly and have a good time. So if you got some time, come out and follow us. Thanks, guys. Sorry, blanked out there for a second. It was like the Matrix. Thank you for listening and checking out this. I hope you take a moment to check out the book, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Love you guys.